Hi everybody. Okay, welcome to exercise 8. This is where we're going to build a full stack application, our web server address book. We're going to use all the skills that we learned up to now, and we're going to throw in one more thing. I'm going to teach you a little bit about Spring Boot, which is an application server for Java, so it helps you build backends, and it also will serve up your website too, if that's how you want to configure it, and that's what we're going to make it do today. So this set of videos. So it's going to be a set of videos, not a single video, because I think this is a little bit bigger and I want to break it up. It's easier for me to record, probably easier for you to watch as well. And I'm just going to do it straight through. I did a little bit of it practice-wise, but otherwise I haven't done much of it. So you're going to watch the process. Sometimes I don't remember what it is that I need to do as far as programming goes. So you'll get to see me do a Google search for stuff and find the answers on MDN, Mozilla's developer network. Usually, sometimes Stack Overflow. So I'll be looking for stuff just like you would. I know a little bit more because I've been doing it for a while, so I know what to search for, and that's really the key. I don't usually remember how to do an API fetch from JavaScript in a web page, so you're going to see me fumble through some of these things, and that's a good thing because it'll be learning experience for both of us. Okay, so we're doing exercise 8, and we're going to do full stack. So we're going to learn how to set up a web server. We're going to learn how to build an index page and a single page app in pure vanilla JavaScript. And we're going to use Bootstrap to make it look pretty, run on a phone. And then we're going to do some URL fetch API calls to our backend, which is, this is a Java course, so we're going to be focused on the backend. And the backend is going to be a RESTful API written in Java leveraging Spring Boot. So show you how to do all of that, and let's go ahead and get started. Now, exercise 8, if I go ahead and click on exercise 8, this thing's so new. I actually don't have any instructions here right now, so what we're going to do is do the video. I'll put the instructions in after. All right, so the first thing is we're going to download the web server. Actually, we're not going to download it. We're going to download a ready-made web server, Spring Boot for us. And so what we're going to do is open up a browser tab, and we're going to type in Spring Initializr, and you just type in Spring Init or something like that. But Spring Initializr, it's spelled without the E here, and just go ahead and hit enter on that, and here it is. So it's start.spring.io if you just want to type in the address. So I'm going to go here. Now this is a kind of a code generator from Spring Boot, or Spring. I don't know which one it is. Spring Boot's the fancier version of Spring, or the one that's actually a little bit easier to program. And it's got a couple of things that make this development really easy. All right, so first thing we're going to do is take a Maven project just because I think it's easier. Some people might like Gradle. Gradle's more programmy. Maven is more, it works. And then language, of course, is Java. These are some Java variants. And then we just take the default values here. And I'm going to just take the defaults for everything. We're just going to keep this simple. We're not really focused on Spring Boot right now, but you would enter group, and this is same thing as your package. So remember how we covered Java packages. So this would be the package that you want to use for your project. And in this case, it's com example. Typically, it's your reverse domain name. So I have a domain called nobody else's as well as Full Stack Cloud Developer. So I would be com.fullstackclouddeveloper dot something, or just that, and then the artifacts will determine everything else. An artifact is actually application name. This is human readable name. Here's a description. I don't even know where that shows up. And then here's the actual package that's going to be this application. So basically, this is our main group, and this is our package that we're going to do. So again, reverse domain name, and then whatever this project is usually what you use, one word, and then everything builds from there. Packaging, we're going to use a jar file. And then dependencies, we just want a simple dependency. We're going to build a web app, so we're just going to do web. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in here. Don't even look at it right now unless you are somewhat familiar with Spring, and then you can go and add other stuff. I don't even know what's in there. So here's, let's do web, and that's all we need. So then we hit generate, and this is really cool. What it does is it downloads a demo zip file for us, and if we extract that, and Windows, I think you double click, it went ahead and unzipped it, and the really cool thing is it did a whole folder for us. So MVMW, this is Maven, that's what we chose, and this makes it easy to build the project. We're going to learn that too. A POM XML, that's the configuration file for Maven. It shows our dependencies, and we'll look at that too. And then it made our source folder structure for us with a test directory and a main directory. So Remember how we were making programs in Visual Studio Code where we made a Java file and a class file? This is already organizing it for us into packages, and you'll see this here when we open this. So here's a demo application thing that will open with Visual Studio Code. This has the IntelliJ, so IntelliJ Ideas IDE, which is a full-featured Java IDE, probably the best one out there. And if we get stuck on Visual Studio Code, which I don't anticipate we will, we can go to IntelliJ. Otherwise, you can go ahead and be adventurous and explore with IntelliJ. In the advanced course or the intermediate courses, we will be using IntelliJ just because it's a little bit easier, and it's a good thing to learn because that's what you'd be using on the job in most cases if you're doing Java development. All right, so nicely this thing made a structure for us. So let's go ahead and open that project. So I'm going to go ahead and open my terminal window here. And I don't want to install an update right now. All right, so I'm going to go to my downloads folder because that's where it is. And it's in demo, right? Because that was the default. And I just took the default. You can add more stuff and play with it. Remember, explore. You can't break anything. Put stuff in, download the zip, see what it looks like, see what's different about it, and then do some learning with it. And we'll do more projects as we go. Spring Boot is going to be the thing that we're mostly in now for the Java backend stuff and for some of our front end stuff. Okay, so demo, this is the application. So here is what it looks like now. It went ahead and made all this stuff for us, and that's a tree command that I installed here. And there's the application Java, so that's the first Java file, and here's a unit test class Java file. We'll probably look at that a little bit. Let's save it more for the intermediate or advanced courses because it's a different subject. We're just trying to get ourselves oriented to start building applications, and then we'll get more advanced as we go. All right, so application, let's go ahead and do our code, and we'll just open dot, which is the current folder. All right, and then something about trusting, yes I do. Something about Docker, I don't really want to do that right now. And then it's loading up the Java install pack, which we set up in the setting up environment thing. Now we want to make sure that this is in standard mode. So if we click on it, we got the little hand. If we have the rocket, then we're in light mode. But since we have the thumbs up, we're in standard mode, and that's where we want to be because that actually helps us more than anything. All right, so let's get rid of this welcome. We don't need that. And I have no idea what this is doing, so I'll just let it do what it's doing. Oh, it wants to do some update, sure. It's probably going to restart it, right? Okay, well, let's just keep going, and if it does, it does. Okay, so let's go ahead and explore source, main, Java. All right, this is where our source files are going to go. We were doing stuff probably on our desktop, probably in our downloads folder, wherever we were doing it before as a single file. Now we've got a package. So com example demo, if we open this Java file, we'll see package. Just like we saw in the anatomy of a Java class lesson, here's that package right here. And that's our reverse domain and then whatever our project is, and this one's just called demo. Here's import statements, again, from anatomy of a Java class. These are actually pulling in class files that we didn't make from somebody else, and that's how they get in here. So here's the package right here, and here is the Java class file. And I think we can even jump into it to see the source code. I wonder if this can do that. And in IntelliJ it can, and I believe this can too. Go to definition. Let's see what this does. Hey, look at that. So it decompiled the source code. So this is the application that we didn't write. Somebody else provided a jar file library, and I'll show you how to get those in here. And so this is their source code. It's a decompiled thing. All right, so here's, do you remember the main static method? This is the entry point, just like we did when we made our calculator or our hello world programs. This is main, and then it's actually running this application up here, which is really just starting off a web server, and it's going to start with our class, which is demo application. And then I'll show you what to do from here. But this is just that right here. So we could actually run and debug just like we did before. So let's go ahead and we'll just run. And then we'll see similar stuff happen to Hello World, except a lot more techie stuff is going to happen. So Spring Boot loaded up, and it's on port 8080. So if we go to our browser now and go to port 8080 on here, so I'm just going to open a new tab, and I'm going to do localhost 8080. And I get an error. we don't have an index page. We don't have index.html page. And if you haven't done front end before, index.html is typically the entry point to a website or a web site's folders. And we don't have one of those yet. We just downloaded the server. So nice thing is, by getting this error, we know that our server's up. And now we need to do something to add to it. So let's go ahead and add to it really quick. And what we're going to do is in the resources, so Spring Boot actually set all this stuff up for us. And in the static folder, we've got nothing right now. So let's go ahead and make a new file. And let's call that index.html. All right, so what that's going to do is it's going to give Spring Boot an entry point for our web page. And this is where all the web page files will go, and you can put folders under here and everything else, images, whatever else you have, PDFs, attachments. And let's just make it say hello world. Oops, got to spell it right. Well, I don't have to, but it's better. All right, so that's what I'm going to save. And now when I run this application, it should show up. Now, if I just switched over here and hit refresh, it's not going to do anything because I have to actually restart the server so that it recognizes that folder or file is there. There's a way to configure it to have it do it automatically, but let's not get into that right now. Just restart it. It's simple enough. So just like we did before, we'll Control-C or hit stop on this, and that shut it down, and we can go ahead and check that out by going refresh, all gone. And let's go ahead and go back to our application, and let's run that again. Okay, it's up on 8080 again. Here we go. We're going to refresh. And hello world. So right there, we've got the tiniest website in the world, just like we had the tiniest, well, it's not the tiniest website in the world. Spring Boot's actually kind of big, but it's a simple one-liner thing to get our web page up. And just like we did when we did hello world on the command line or in Java, now we've got it on a web page. All right, so let's go a little bit farther with this. So we want to make an address book. And address books have street address, name, phone number, and stuff like that. Now, here's another thing we're going to learn. So we're actually going to focus for maybe this lesson, maybe the next one. On the front end, we're going to mix in some back end as we need it, and then we're going to focus on the back end, because right now this is a Java course. We're going to focus on building back ends, and maybe the front end of this course will start filling in our front end course. So let's go ahead and open up a new browser tab. And we're going to go to Bootstrap. Now this is a, so Bootstrap something. I don't know what version they're on right now. Probably the first one that comes up is fine. I don't know what all this is. I think Bootstrap 5 is the new one. So let's hope if I click on that first thing that came up. Yep, current version is 5.1. All right, so this helps you build nice looking websites that are responsive. So if it's running on a desktop or a phone or a tablet, it looks good. It automatically shrinks itself and expands itself and all that other stuff. All right, so what we actually want from this is I want an address thingy, and I know that this thing has that. I'm not sure exactly where it is. I could do a search for it. Sure, let's do that. Does it have address? Reboot address. I wonder what that is. Misc elements, it said. Oh, okay, that's pretty snazzy. So that's for printing out. That's not what I want. I think what I want is in forms, or what we want. Now let's just go to forms. Oh, I guess you have to click on something. So let's just go to form control. All right, and let's see if we see something. So here's an example. There's another example. I know that there's a complex example in here that has an actual address, and that's why I brought us here. And it nicely has copy and paste HTML for us. And we'll get in more to the front end stuff in the front end course, but right now we're just trying to focus on the front end enough to get our back end going. Maybe it's an input group. That's looking a little bit better. I'm looking for something that looks addressy that I think I've seen before. Button add-ons. And this is a good thing to go through. See how nice it looks? Look at that's pretty snazzy, right? It's got all the copy and paste HTML right here, so that's really cool. All right, that's not it. How about layout? It's in one of these. I know I've seen it. Grid layout, gutters. This thing is really, oh, here it is. Look at that. There's the address. Email, password. We'll change that to something else, maybe phone number. Address, address, address. This looks like what we want. And then there's the copy and paste. Let's see if there's a better one underneath it. Otherwise, they're going to something else. All right, so this is the one we're going to take. All right, so I'm just going to copy right here, and we'll modify this and click to make sure. All right, so let's go over to our index.html page. Now, here's something that's up. This is in HTML right now. This is just text. So if I paste in the stuff that I just grabbed, it's HTML. That's great, and it'll probably run. Let's try it. Experiment, right? You can't break anything, just try it. So let's see what this does. I have no idea what this is going to do. I haven't tried this before. So if I refresh it here, it shouldn't do. Oh, it did pull it in. Okay, so it looks like Spring Boot automatically is looking at index.html changes. Now that looks pretty ugly. I mean, it did bring in stuff, but it doesn't look as nice as it did on the Bootstrap page. So there's something missing. We just pasted the HTML into not even an HTML document because we just pasted in a form. Now there's other stuff that goes with HTML, and we're going to go find what that should be right now. Now we're pretending that we don't know anything about website programming yet. So we're exploring, we're learning, and I'm showing you where to go to learn some things. Let's go over to getting started. That'll probably help us. Introduction, sure. Tells us about it. Quick start. CSS, you guys will learn about that later in the front end course. That's what makes it lay out nice and look good. Here's a starter template. That looks like what we want. All right, so the starter template, what it does, and I'll explain this really quickly, is it sets up an HTML document for us. So our index.html page needs these things to tell it's HTML, what language, it's English. The header is where we put the title and other things that we're bringing in, like CSS files and stuff. And so here's the title. That's what shows up on the tab. And then here's the body where we put our HTML. Now we're going to go ahead and pull this stuff in. You can look down through more of this. It teaches you some things, but let's just go ahead and copy this right here. And I'm going to put it in above this because I already have the form that's going to be in our body, and I'll have to move it up there. But we want to get our page somewhat working. So this is a hello world. Everyone does that, huh? All right, so and then here's some stuff. So here is the JavaScript thing. This one's separate Popper and Bootstrap.js. Why do I want that? It's commented out, so I don't want it. Let's get rid of it. And JavaScript, choose one of the two. Oh, we did that already. All right, so something with Popper. Let's go ahead and take that. All right, so let's leave that script there. Let's leave that hello world there too. That's fine. And let's take our form and let's put it in the body where it should be. So let's cut that. And inside the body here, we'll put it underneath our hello world thing. And the indentation's kind of off here, so we can fix that. I'm going to save that there. And then I think if I do a right click, format document, it went ahead and fixed all the indentation for us. I'm going to save that. Now you'll hopefully see our form look way better. So let's go ahead and go to our web page. And where's that? Over here. All right, let's see what it looks like now. Okay, that looks a little better. Well, actually, it's a lot better, but everything's smashed up to the sides. I don't like that. So one of the things you'll learn about Bootstrap is it helps lay things out, but you have to at least get the containers right. And so this is just the form. The form should be in something that actually allows it to lay out right. So let's go back to introduction, contents maybe. This is just telling us how everything's laid out. That's probably not what we want. Layout is probably what we want. Containers. And so you just explore this. You don't know much about it yet, and I don't really, I mean, I do front-end development, but I don't usually remember this stuff. Here's the default container. So we need a container, and we need our stuff, content here inside of our container. So if we actually, this is documentation for Bootstrap. If we inspected the page, we would see that those things, that address was actually in a container. So let's go ahead and just copy this. And this is what we want to put around our address. So let's go ahead and paste it here. Content goes in the middle of that thing, right? So let's make some space. Let's grab this form and stick it in the middle of that and see what it looks like after we're done. All right, so I just cut it with Command X or Control X on Windows. I paste it in here. Let's format this document again with a right click and format document. I have no idea if it did anything. It looks like it did. All right, so now we've got something inside of the container. Let's refresh the website and hope it looks better. All right, now it's squished it in, and that's good. Okay, look at hello world still smashed over there. And we're going to, maybe we'll change it to address book or something. So let's put this inside of here. And now let's see how it looks. Hey, it moved it over. That's good. So let's just put address book, because it's not hello world anymore. So let's just go ahead and make a change. And now we're getting a web page going. Address, that's my dog barking in the background. One of the dogs. All right, so address book. Okay, so we've got address book. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Refresh, and there we go. So it's looking good now. All right, so now we've got our address book. That is a front-end web page. So what we're going to do from here is fill in some more stuff. So we're going to learn a little bit of front-end development right now. And this is really just modifying stuff. So we already have a pretty good-looking address book. And one of the things you'll notice that's nice about Bootstrap, as it gets smaller, see how it's formatting and shrinking it. If I'm on a phone, now it looks kind of like a phone. And if I stretch it back out again, it gets bigger and stretches. Now I'm on a tablet. Now I'm on a desktop. So that looks good, right? Okay. So email address, yeah, for an address book these days, we probably want that. Password, this isn't a user password thing. So let's go ahead and do some modifications here. And quick HTML lesson. Okay, HTML, start with a doc type HTML. That tells the browser what document it's loading. There are different versions of HTML. This tells it that it's the latest version of HTML, so the browser will respond to these tags appropriately. This is our tag that starts it off, HTML, and the English language is being used here. You could use other languages as well. Head is stuff that's defined for the header, various headers, things that the page needs, any imports of CSS, and of course the title. And some JavaScript goes here. Not really. We like it down at the bottom better. And so we're going through a little bit of anatomy of HTML here. And so head is a tag, and we'll look up these later in our front end lessons, what they all mean, but just use the template for now. And so that's how that works. You don't really have to look at it, but we do want to change a couple things. Well, let's change the title. That's what shows up in the tab, to address book. Okay, and then we've got address book here. That's good. So body, that's where our HTML content goes. Div, that's I'll call it a container object. It holds things. It's really for layout, and they use them for all kinds of things, but div is a very popular tag. And then H1 is a header. There's H1, H2, H3, H4, I think all the way to H6. The H1's big, like a title case. Then it gets subtitle, and all the way down to 6, which it's much smaller. All right, form. Now forms are important because forms are the things that actually communicate with a backend through all of these inputs. So you've seen them before. A login page is a form, typically. Any form that you filled out for an online application or anything else like that is an HTML form. And there's other attributes here. And this is a Bootstrap thingy that helps us with layout. And I don't think we'll get into that in this lesson, but we'll see. All right, another div, and this is a layout thing. So just to let you know, Bootstrap breaks things up into columns of 12. So a 6 here means it's going to take up half, which you'll see takes up half. And then 6 on the other side takes up half. And then 12 here takes up the whole 12. Okay, so that's how that kind of works. And then you could do 3, you can do 2, break things up. Okay, so these are divs. That's a label, so a label email. And here's the label email. And then input type is email address, so it's going to validate that it's email. And there's that. And so these are all pretty straightforward, yeah, but we'll learn more about it later on. All right, and then so we've got that. So let's go ahead and make a change here. Let's change password to phone. All right, and it's not a password type anymore. Let's put in a phone type. I don't know if it'll format as a phone, but maybe it will. And let's change the name or the ID of this one to input phone. And that means that this for label should be phone too. All right, so now if we go ahead and refresh our page, we've got phone, and we should be able to enter a phone number. I don't know if it'll format things. How about, I don't know, 222 555 1212. Okay, it doesn't format, so that's the number. It's freeform. All right, so that's that. We've got states. Now this is a combo box here, and we could load up a bunch of states and have them be able to pick them. You've seen that before. But let's just go ahead and make that an input, just because this is a simple lesson and we don't want to get into that right now. So let's go ahead and replace that. So this is a select. We'll get into this in the HTML lessons, but inputs are things to type in. Selects are things to select from. Text area is things to type like paragraphs in. And there's a couple other things too. So let's just go ahead and replace that. We're going to cut it out and then paste in the input that we brought in. Type text, form control is fine. That helps us lay out and control things. Input, and this one's going to be, was it state? I think that's what it's called. I should remember the name. And we'll just get rid of the placeholder, and we'll learn about that later too. And why is that div way over there? Because it was a paste thing. So let's format it and see if that div goes somewhere else. Yep. Okay, so it nicely laid it out. So if it gets messy, because sometimes it does, just go ahead and lay it out format-wise. Okay, so that should give us a state. When we refresh and get rid of this select box, now we can type it. Okay, that makes it simple. Check me out, don't need it. And that is another type of input, which is of type checkbox. We don't need it, so let's just go ahead and cut that whole thing. So I'm going to cut it from the column definition div, okay? And right to the next div. So HTML tags typically have an open and close. Some of them don't, like inputs don't, but typically they have open and close. So this is an open, and that's a close. So slash, whatever the tag name is, and that's a tag, and this is called a tag, HTML tag. And usually we do the indentation with levels like this so we can see where everything is. You can jumble them up, put them all on one line, completely not readable, not maintainable. You want to make this easier on yourselves. Make the indentation so you can see where stuff begins and ends. All right, so don't need check me out, so get rid of that. Submit is the thing that you click on that actually does the save. We don't want it to say sign in. We want it to say save. All right, so now we'll go back in here. All right, so now we've got our form. And that is probably all we're going to do on this recording. What time are we at? We're already at 27 minutes. So I'm going to stop this recording, and we'll do a little bit more on the front end and then get into some back end stuff in the next lesson. All right, thanks for watching. That's a little bit of front end for you. See you in the lessons.